welcome to another installment of Coffee with Carl. I am your host, Carl Zoellner, one of the attorneys with Anderson Business Advisors. Today I want to talk a little bit about living trusts. Living trusts are something we do, of course, but we also they hold a special place in our hearts because we've seen a lot of different things that are especially involved with probate, items like that can really affect your estate planning. And there's a ton of misinformation out there involving living trusts, wills, or no estate plan at all. So first and foremost, as you can tell by the title of this section, living trust is going to be the overall suggestion. Some of the knocks against living trusts is a lot of people think they're for rich people or they're more expensive up front, but there's some real there's a real dark underbelly when it comes to the estate planning side of what attorneys do. Just to quickly go through a couple of pieces here. Normally when we teach this in our class, it's a 2-hour section or more. So there's a lot to kind of jam into this quick coffee with Carl here. But wills, if you have a will, wills are known within the legal industry as what's called a loss leader, meaning the attorney's taking a hit on the front end, but it's because they can charge and probate generally costs so much on the back end that they'll make it back when you pass. Now, I say this is my opinion, it's a little bit predatory in that you don't know how much the cost of probate is going to be when you usually set up a will or have an attorney do a will for you, and then quite frankly you're gone by the time you would have been able to complain about it. So wills are not the best route. Also with a will, there's a lot. I'll go through kind of a summary at the end here of what the difference is, but wills are generally going to be actually more expensive if we actually look at the total cost of a will, meaning the cost of the will plus probate, versus paying a little bit more upfront for a trust. Now, just as an average, it can vary widely depending on what you're trying to do with your trust. And kind of a neat thing about trusts is they're only restrained basically by what you can't do, not limited to only the minor things you can do with them. So I really like them because they're very flexible in what you want to do. Whether that means you want to, say if you've got a bunch of assets that actually produce income, you can actually choose not to distribute the assets themselves, but maybe just distribute the income. You can do some future planning. You could actually pour them into, say, into a nonprofit organization. There's lots of tons of different things you can do with them. But let's talk about some of the basics and why trusts are better than wills, okay? Number one is trusts avoid probate. If you have, say, assets in multiple states and you have a will, you're going to have to probate in every one of those states, or those assets will, what's called escheat, back to the state, and the state will own them. That happens all the time. There's some, say land or something like that in another state, maybe not very valuable at the moment, but the cost of probate outweighs the cost or the benefit of keeping that land, so people just let it go back to the state. With a trust, you don't have those concerns because the title of those assets is held in the trust and therefore bypasses probate. Okay, so number one huge point there on the side of trust is it avoids probate, because probate takes on average about up to 18 months, and the cost of it is usually in the tens of thousands of dollars if you have anything other than a small estate. And pretty much anybody listening to this video, your goals are to have something more than a small estate. Small estate, just noting in Texas, I believe the last time I looked at it was $75,000 worth of assets exclusive of your homestead. So not very high bar there if we're talking about the long run up and what we plan to do with the rest of our lives. The other thing is trusts provide privacy, meaning usually when you have a will or when you die what's called intestate without an estate plan, there's a list of your assets that gets posted, usually in the newspaper, so creditors can make a claim against it. You have incapacity protection within a living trust as well, meaning if for some reason you are, say, mentally or physically incapacitated, there's ancillary documents that we provide with our trust, that your HIPAA releases, your power of attorneys, those type of items as well. So that's incredibly important. Also, trust can provide for blended family planning. The reality is today, this day and age, is that there's lots of folks on second, third, fourth marriages. There's kids from prior marriages. And so it's really helpful in that blended family respect, because you can actually carve certain things out for children existing before the marriage. We also include such provisions where you can be disinherited if you challenge the will, or excuse me, the trust for no good reason. Also, you can have ongoing, like we said, there's all sorts of distribution paths you can choose, whether it's distributing the income from the assets and not the assets themselves. So there's a ton of different things. There's also the ability to minimize estate taxes. Right now, the estate tax from the federal standpoint is fairly large, so it's not a huge concern, but those do tend to change over time. So say a few years ago it was $600,000. Now it's up to, I believe it's what, 5.4 million per individual. So married couples are almost at $11 million they can pass. So just kind of as a summary of this whole deal, living trusts are better. Specifically for my portion, the most important piece is because they avoid probate, and probate's the biggest cost or expense when somebody passes, as well as not just money but time. And then also living trust beat wills due to their flexibility and ability to do many different things rather than just show the court what you hope happens with your assets. Because with a will, ultimately you can show the probate court what your intent or what your wishes are to happen with your assets, but with a will, the judge actually decides where they go. So we want to make sure we have a living trust in place. Yes, they're a bit more expensive up front. Figure somewhere between $4,000 and $5,000 for a good trust. Ultimately, though, that's still probably substantially less than half of what your estate would pay going through probate. Especially speaking to my California viewers out there, your statutory probate fees start at about 8%, and that's of the gross estate, not of the net. So remember, living trusts are better. Thank you for joining me again with another Coffee with Carl. Once again, if you ever need a consult, please give us a call or check out our website at andersonadvisors.com and schedule that free consult. If you're already a client, chances are you're a platinum client, meaning you already have access to all of our attorneys and tax folks, and we don't charge an hourly rate, so we always look forward to talking with y'all. Until next time, please take advantage of our free content, and we'll catch you on the next Coffee with Carl. Thanks.